The 2026 Showdown has concluded. Let's see which teams have finished on top and which four are missing out for next year. The Jawbreakers are back on a 1-year prove-it deal, and when it comes to this showdown, they made the most of that opportunity, mostly staying afloat with a silver and 3 bronzes. Even with those performances, the team showed that they still have rust to shake off with a 15th place finish in funnels and a 13th place showing in sand maze. Still, for this being their first tournament in 6 years, they looked pretty good. Now, I don't know if the team will be back for next year's qualifiers or the Purple Rockets come back, but regardless, if they do stay for next year, I wouldn't be too opposed to it. Coming off of a rough performance in qualifiers, Team Galactic has made their second showdown appearance, and they did just about as expected when it comes to how they usually perform. Outside of their silver in relay and a solid showing in sand maze by Starry, it didn't really seem like any of Team Galactic's performances stood out in a good or bad way. They were decent for the most part, and because of it, they have found themselves in the middle of the standings for the showdown. The last time Team Galactic did decent in the showdown, they qualified the next year and had their strongest showing. Though I'm not entirely saying that will happen again, this team is still pretty solid and they have a decent shot at rebounding from this season. Another showdown it is for the Glaciers, and like last year, they have been moving in middle ground. They had a shot to qualify for 2026, but second to last in Javelin and last in Underwater Race Bipolar said otherwise. For how they started the showdown, it wasn't looking good as they scored 6 points in 2 events and were tied for last. In terms of the rest of their showdown events, the Glaciers were middle ground in most of them, except for Sand Maze, where Iceberg, like last year's Sand Rally Showdown, turned on the Jets and finished in second, playing a key part into saving the Glaciers season for the second time. Though it is pretty tough for this team to reach the top, they do make sure to avoid the bottom when it matters. For the 8th time in their 8-year history, following their 7th missed qualification, the Turtle Sliders are here. And with how their showdown went, it is pretty similar to last year's. And the thing with the Sliders for this showdown is that they weren't really bad in any of their events. They played a very consistent game, obtaining 1 gold and respectable top 5 finishes for 4 of their events. What kind of got them a bit is that Javelin gold would be the only medal of their season. That and they had the lead going into the final showdown event, only to drop it and finish in second. Not the first time it has happened, but regardless, the Sliders have shown promise that they could be serviceable, but they just have to qualify, which is very tough. If the Goldmoths can do it, why not this team? Like the Turtle Sliders, the Wolfpack also remind me as a team that has potential to put things together. And for this year's showdown, the Wolfpack also have shown good results in most of their events, scoring double digits in each of the first half events, including a gold in funnels by Sirius. Which is interesting because if you follow this team, you know that they take nothing but 11th in funnels. But that's besides the point. Their second half did look a bit shaky, but they were already safe from relegation and still had a chance to win the showdown. They just needed Balto, who's normally seen as underwhelming to the Wolfpack, to do well. And they didn't just do well, they won the event, which led to the Wolfpack winning the showdown. Who would have thought that Balto would have been the one to save the day? Apology forms are right here if needed. Another showdown has concluded for the Jumpers, and it's another year where they avoid finishing in the bottom 4. Although things have gotten off to a very rough start with a 15th place in relay, they quickly turn things around with top half finishes the rest of the way and even a silver in Javelin, which is pretty good redemption from the qualifiers. The thing with the Jumpers is they are somewhat like the Rojo Rollers. Excluding the relegation part, the Jumpers don't do that. That is the thing with this Jumpers team. They are very resilient and will keep on fighting for more opportunities. And with that being said, they'll have another shot for 2027 qualifiers, just as long as they don't take another 5-year gap between main leagues. Balls of Chaos, it's in their name. The things this team does or tries to do is really amazing sometimes, you know? But I don't know if I could say the same for their showdown. Their first 4 events weren't helpful, finishing last twice and being in last overall with 9 points. They would slightly pick things up a bit with a 6th place finish in Sand Maze, but the team needed a miracle in Rallycross, And for Snarl, they were picking up pretty good momentum. In fact, they were doing so good that they put themselves in position to not only win, but possibly get out of the bottom 4, which would be peak Balls of Chaos. But unfortunately for them, their efforts weren't enough. And the Balls of Chaos are placing bottom 4 in a showdown for the second time. Only this time is their first relegation. As for Team Momo, what a quick drop off it has been. The team just reached the highest high they could have 2 years ago, and now they're at the lowest low 2 years later. This team has shown their signs of struggles in off-season tournaments, but that wasn't really looked at as a big issue during the time. Despite their rough showing in qualifiers, they had a chance to turn around in this year's showdown. And the moment they got 14th in Relay, an event they're really good at, the writing was on the wall. Only managing to maintain one top half finish all season. Their next highest placement was 11th. Just a poor showing all around. To go from champions in 2024 to this in 2026. Times changed quick. Watching the Thunderbolts in these 6 events felt like a tale of 2 halves. Starting the showdown off freezing with a last place finish in Relay, which apparently became the boost the team needed as Shock would take silver in funnels. They have also maintained a double-digit scoring in Javelin. Then came the Swing Wave, in which they placed first. Whether it's the main league or the showdown, this is something to be happy about if you're the Bolts. Sitting in second with 2 events to spare, the Bolts saw that they were pretty much safe and relaxed for the last 2 events. One of them being a 15th place showing by part-time Brawl Star Bolt. The Bolts would find themselves finishing in 8th, which might not say a lot, but it's much better than how their last few showdowns went. And like the Jumpers, this team always finds a way to avoid relegation. The Shining Swarm. To think this team almost won a championship 4 years ago. Now they are the 4th team to go from winning the showdown to finishing bottom 4 in the showdown the very next year. When it came to their performances, they were mostly mediocre. They were the only team this showdown to not score double digits in an event. What did slow them down a bit was their 14th place in Swing Wave. Even with that, alongside a below average showing in Sand Maze, the Swarm still had a shot. But when it came to Rallycross, it went about the same way as their entire showdown. And because of that, the Shining Swarm for the second time lose out on qualification via tiebreaker. And if relegation holds, they'll be the second team to experience getting relegated twice. But as for who they lost the tiebreaker to, the Limers. Well, isn't that just interesting? They found themselves in a tough situation and managed to pull it off. And the thing with the Limers is they didn't even start off that bad. Doing okay in Relay, and Limelight managed to maintain a bronze in Funnels. But things took a bit of a turn when they scored 6 points in the next 3 events and found themselves sitting in 14th with a 75% chance of missing 2027. Fortunately for them, Goo Lime showed up prepared and did just enough to save the Limers. Now they live to see another qualifiers. And one more thing, after the Shining Swarm got eliminated in Rallycross, Greg would say that they were relegated, which was not true because had the Limers placed anything other than top 5, they would have missed out in favor of the Swarm. After what happened last year, the Minties are back, and they need to find their footing for this year's showdown. And for the most part, they handled things pretty well. They weren't getting too complacent, and they did show some good signs with a bronze in Swing Wave and taking gold in Sand Maze. A pretty good shot as they are 1 point behind the Sliders heading into Rallycross. Their hopes for a showdown win were on Minty Mint. It did not go as well as the Minties hoped. Still, thanks to metal type being in their favor, the Minties would secure a bronze in the showdown over the Jawbreakers, who actually obtained the most medals in the showdown. A much needed bounce back year for the Minties. The Midnight Wisps are back for their 3rd showdown, but before we talk about that, let's talk about how they even got in this position. Last year, the Wisps did really good in the first half and were leading by the halfway point. Seemed like a pretty good showing for a mostly new roster. Then the second half happened, in which the Wisps had a really bad stretch and dropped from 1st to 8th with 2 events to spare. Fortunately, the team's reserve, Yavain, gave them some hope with a win at elimination race, putting them in 3rd with 1 event to go. Unfortunately, they couldn't hold on as the moment got too bright for Twilight and they finished last. The Wisps would drop to 4th and they were originally supposed to auto-qualify for 2026, but at the last moment, it was decided that the Pinkies were going to host. So now the Wisps would have to go through another qualifiers. Most of their qualifying events were below average, but a strong performance by Wispy in the underwater race would give them some hope. One problem, they would lose out by 100th of a second to Radiance, which would be very crucial since the Wisps would lose out on qualifying by 1 point to Team Plasma. Now they're in the showdown, in which they didn't start too bad, scoring 18 points in the first 2 events. Then they would start to crumble, scoring a combined 1 point in the next 2 events. They would be given some hope with Eve taking bronze in Sand Maze, but as for how Amaya would do in the final event...
Team Primary up in 4th, that's what they needed. And it looks like we've got a DNF. I did not see Midnight Wisps. They must be stuck somewhere higher up on the course. But look at this. If that is the case, that guarantees that the Midnight Wisps will be relegated.
Eliminated after 2 races, last in the event, and for the 3rd time, the Midnight Wisps finished bottom 4 in the showdown. And it's not just that, they are the 3rd team to finish bottom 4 in the showdown 3 times. They are one of the 2 first former champions to get relegated alongside Team Momo. This is the 3rd instance where a team has gone from 4th in the main league to bottom 4 in the showdown the next year. And the thing about that is, the Wisps did it twice, this time with a whole new roster. Only thing in common is that Wispy is captain for both years. As for the Wisps as a team, they're just as inconsistent as Mellow Yellow. They may have their highs, but they also have their lows. What a domino effect. After hosting last year due to reasons of 10th Marble League, in which the Rangers did pretty good hosting as well, they are now back in the showdown for the 2nd time in 3 years. They were that close to knocking off the Speeders. In terms of how they performed, they started things with one of their members leaving the track in relay. As for their other results, they weren't too bad, most notably a 4th place showing in Javelin. However, with 1 event to go, the Rangers found themselves only 3 points ahead of the cutoff, and they would have to rely on Tarako, in which they had a respectable and consistent performance at Rallycross, earning a silver and saving the Rangers season. Their last few years outside of 2025 haven't been that good, but they do have a chance to return to that standard heading into 2027. Like the Minties, Team Primary is also back after being relegated last year, and they performed rather similar to the Shining Swarm. Their results in the events also didn't stand out much, performing around the same range for most of, if not all of the showdown. Though they did have a few notable moments, such as overtaking Balls of Chaos at the last moment in Sand Maze for 5th, and Mary, who had a really rough start taking last in the first race of Rallycross, responded with great performances and did enough to keep Team Primary out of the bottom 4. Though they didn't do a lot in this showdown, Team Primary can say at least they're not the Balls of Chaos. The 3rd and final team coming from auto relegation, the Rojo Rollers. As for how they did, they got off to an amazing start, taking 1st in relay. As for how the rest of their showdown would go, they scored the same amount of points in 5 events as they did in relay. Their best finish was 8th, in which Rojo Dos got left stranded. Their other performances were just underwhelming. Safe to say, this is not the same team from 2023. Though for them, they did manage to avoid finishing bottom 4. It's a good thing if they won that gold medal back in relay, or else things would be looking really disastrous for this team. And that's a wrap on the 2026 showdown. Congrats to the Minties on a bounce back bronze, the Turtle Sliders for their 2nd silver in a row, and the Wolfpack achieving their 1st showdown win. As for the teams relegated to the 2027 showdown, those are the Shining Swarm, Midnight Wisps, Balls of Chaos, and Team Momo. 2 former champions, a former silver medalist, and, well, Balls of Chaos. Everyone else, see you in the 2027 qualifiers. Next up, the main league. Until then, peace.